I believe there's a hero in all of us.
You have great powers, only some of which you have as yet discovered.
I'm a superhero,
a real-life superhero.
The world needs extraordinary.
We will make you a superhero.
Are you ready to become a hero?
Initiating surprise in 3.
This
2
is
1.
The Real Brian Show.
Oh yeah, happy Friday. No agenda, no format. Time to grab your favorite drink and join us as we end the week right. We're going to nerd out. We're going to have some fun. Oh my gosh, we made an awesome, from scratch, Chicago deep dish pizza that I have to share with you. It's so good. Captain HammerPants, by the way, posed an interesting question to us that we're going to chat about. I'm kind of excited to discuss this, so we'll see what happens. You know, plus the usual scuttlebutt. So let's hit record and let's see what happens.
I swear, if we actually win this match, I will burn this pub to the ground. I will knock over a chair. I will channel my raging enthusiasm into ways to help my community.
Let's rock it! I'm not going to channel my enthusiasm into ways to help the community. I am going to burn this pub down because it's the Real Brian Show.
Woo, that's what we're about. Burning it all down.
Burning it all down. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. It's so exciting to be here. It's opposite day. Oh, yeah. And you'd be kind of like, hey, you're an idiot. Opposite day. Never mind. Look, I'm going to move my camera around like this. A little earthquake over here. Did you like that? That was pretty cool.
I loved it. It was, dude, I loved it, but this is opposite day.
This is opposite day. So you remember in Star Trek, you know, when they're like, oh, all hands abandon ship, all hands abandon. Okay, if you're watching YouTube right now, you're like, this, you know? Don't throw up. Don't worry, we're here. We're having a good time. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. All right, so here's the deal. This is not a full-on recreation of, nice Hooters I've got here. It's not a full recreation of Chris's matcha drink, but it's close. I'm working on finding some inulin, which is that prebiotic stuff.
Inulin, that sounds like a big pharma property.
Yeah,
inulin.
It's prebiotic.
Ask your doctor if inulin is right for you, Brian.
Side effects may include death. As the early
Severe
warning
nausea.
signs of death are, what was it? The early warning signs of death are a slight rotting smell, rigor mortis, occasional drowsiness.
Warning signs?
Early warning signs of death. And by the way, if you experience these warning signs, you're supposed to don't talk, don't attempt to drive or operate heavy machinery, and stay still. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I was told. So I have my owl mug here for those of you who are listening going, what? Brian's what? His owl mug. So
owl.
I want inulin, which is that prebiotic that will go in there. We're actually talking about that anyway. Like, can we get some prebiotic anyway for, our gut, healthy gut? And then I'm going to try
probiotic, Brian?
There's pro and pre.
Oh, wait. So what's prebiotic? I'd actually never heard that term.
Yeah, I can't go into the science of it right now without looking it up myself. But probiotic is good, and prebiotic is necessary for your probiotic to work correctly, or it's absorption.
Really?
It's all about absorption. Yeah, and you find a lot of prebiotics in vegetables and stuff like that. So most of us get them anyway, unless you don't eat vegetables. But yeah, if you do like all probiotics and no prebiotics, then you don't absorb the probiotics correctly. So
I didn't know you're supposed to absorb probiotics. I thought they just kind of lived in your stomach.
Yeah, but you want them to not just get passed through.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's fair.
I'm curious to read up a little bit more about it. I do know that prebiotics are, that's the whole inulin thing. So I thought, okay, cool. I've got some monk fruit that I'm going to try as the sweetener in it. And I'm only going to do just a teeny bit because I don't want it too terribly sweet. And then I'll add my other stuff. But this is just some matcha right now. It's a very simple. It's not the cool, Chris version. But anyway, it's going to be good with my Hooter mug. Yeah, honk the owl, the Hooter. All right. So what are you drinking?
So I was looking for a new decaf. I only drink decaf coffee now. I learned something when I was looking for this. One thing I learned, and I should have known this before, and I kind of did know this before, but I relearned it, is that best of lists, like best rated lists that you look up, like say you want to look up the best rated such and such of 2022 or whatever. They're all different and they're all paid for. So I kind of threw a dart and picked a decaf that one site recommended as its number one, and it was Kicking Horse. Have you heard of that brand?
Yeah, I have actually.
Yeah. So I said I just kind of like I pulled the trigger. I bought a bag of Kicking Horse coffee, a decaf coffee, and it was whole bean. It wasn't ground.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm drinking right now.
Oh, really?
No, and not so, right second, but I have a whole bag. Well, we had a whole bag of Kicking Horse decaf that got sent to us. And so, yeah, I think it is actually that.
Wait.
Yeah, I was kind of like,
the same stuff.
Yeah.
So I ground it up nice and fine. I brewed some up, and it's actually quite good. I'm very happy with it. And but it is dark. But for me, I'm not a coffee snob, if you will. And I use the word snob, I use the word snob in a nice way. But because I put cream and sugar in my coffee, or cream and monk fruit, I should say. And so to me, Starbucks coffee tastes really good with cream and sugar. A lot of people who drink it black, they complain about Starbucks, like you, that's saying it tastes burnt or whatever. And I've heard that from other people as well.
And it is like literally burnt.
Yeah. But if you put cream and sugar in it, it's really good. It has this really good taste. Well, this Kicking Horse coffee reminds me of that. So
that's good.
I'm really enjoying the flavor of it with my cream and my monk fruit, and that's what I'm drinking.
Well, Starbucks roasts very dark, and so for those of you who are like, "Oh yeah, I want a strong coffee," roast it strong. There's no such thing, actually. It's we've said this before, but yeah, it's the thing is the darker you roast any coffee bean, the more you're taking the actual unique flavor of that bean out of the equation, because now you're just getting the charcoal flavor.
And you're making the caffeine content less, I've heard.
Lower significantly,
so the lighter brews are actually higher in caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and it's an acquired taste. I know a lot of people love their dark roast coffee. That's just what they grew up with. That's what they're used to, and that's fine. The lighter roast is where you get all the flavor and you get more caffeine and all that, like you just said. And honestly, though, it depends on the coffee. That's the other thing too. Is a lot of people are like, I just want everything dark, and I shouldn't do that. And it really depends on, like, a Sumatra typically should be roasted darker versus some of the
Ethiopian?
Central American or African beans might be lighter, depending on what you like and the flavor profile and that kind of thing too. So that's the whole point. It shouldn't all be dark. It should be different. And but at the same time, yes, the Kicking Horse coffee, it's very dark, but it is good. In fact, I can tell you from my experience, having it's probably the same coffee actually. The same roast and everything.
It's got a little moon on the thing on the front.
Yeah, it's cool. It was nice. In fact, we got it. We go through Thrive, by the way, which can send you certain groceries, non-perishable. I think you can get perishable too, but they once in a while will send you free gifts, and that was one of the free gifts we got was a
sweet
bag of Kicking Horse decaf, and I was like, perfect. I was out of decaf, and so I was ready. So I've been drinking it. It's good. I would say yes, it's definitely better than Starbucks. It's nowhere near as bitter. And Starbucks is bitter. It really is. But at the same time, I don't mind Starbucks as espresso. I enjoy it.
Hey.
And I like it.
Hey.
Yeah, dude. I'm glad we're drinking some good stuff, man. Hey. So Pilates, man. How many times have you gone now? What is it, like 4, 5, 6, 8, 20 times now?
My better half and I have gone 4 times so far. Okay. And I got to tell you, the last time, dude, you weren't kidding. Both of us, when we walked out of there, we could, our hip, like our legs right around our hips were just wobbly, like jelly almost. Cause we had been stretching and strengthening inner thigh muscles and stuff that we just neither of us work out. And my wife does yoga. So she was better off than me, but I mean, even she was wobbly down there after that session. And boy, it felt so good. Nice. It was so nice it's so nice to come out of a session like that feeling worked, and especially in ways that you didn't plan.
It's so interesting to me too. Like when I would go into the weight room, I would feel like I got a good workout, but I would not necessarily come out feeling better. And when I go to Pilates, I get a really good workout and I feel better afterwards.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's either maybe people. It's your posture or I think it's because you're doing it correctly, And in fact, there was something I was doing today even where, she was looking at me and she's kind of like, hold on, let's do this. You're not doing the right, you got to do it like this. And I was like, oh, now I feel it, or she'll say, I need to lighten that because you're not keeping the right posture. And I'm thinking, well, it feels light to me. Yeah, but you're not doing the right posture. Right. Okay. So then she lightens it and I'm like, man, I'm weak, dude. But then I do the right posture and then I went, oh, okay. See, I didn't know that. I wouldn't.
She just didn't want you to break another spring, Brian. That's all there was to it.
It's still broken. Yeah.
So, but
it's fun though. But I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, so far so good. And I bought a new scale because my home scale is kind of crap. So I bought a new scale, and I'm very disappointed in this scale.
Oh no, it's okay.
You know why?
Because you told me you were going to buy one, and then you said, "Hey, I didn't know what to buy, so I just did something off of ratings." Right? Isn't that what you did?
Yeah. I did
ratings?
the same thing. I did this time. I did Amazon. Yeah. So
okay. So what's the disappointment of it? Does it yell at you and say, "Hey, fatty," or something?
That would be cool. No, I'm disappointed because I realized that different scales all measure different weights. Now, hopefully, they all measure weight relative to themselves. So, like for example, when I had been measuring my own weight for the last month and a half or so, as I counted calories and whatnot, and it was coming down steadily, and I was very happy with that. Then when they weighed me before Pilates last week for a fitness assessment, I was even less weight. I'd gone down another like 4 or 5 pounds, and I was like, "There's no way," because I knew that their scale read weight differently than my scale at home. But this new scale I just got reads weight differently again, except it's way higher than the other two scales.
Oh, jeez.
So I went from it's kind of like starting over again, even though I know I've made progress over the last month and a half. When you get a new scale and it tells you that you weigh this much when you thought you made less than that, it's a downer. It's a Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
That, so now I have this new baseline that I got to start measuring from, and I'm just kind of irritated because my calorie counting app is all off now. My spreadsheet's off. It's all off. It's like starting over.
But the thing is that you're saying, okay, well, the scale measures it differently. So, okay, new baseline. Hey, look, I made progress here. All right, cut. Here's the new baseline. And then you say, well, this scale is putting me at whatever it is. Even though the other one put me down here, it doesn't matter. Now we're measuring the results now.
Intellectually,
I know, but it's
I know it, but emotionally, on the surface, my brain's going, "Oh, dude,
it makes you want to go eat chocolate."
Now I'm this weight again when I thought I was that weight a month and a half ago. So
it's donut time.
Not quite. So I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to lose heart. But that was very disappointing when I got that new scale. So,
though, you're right. They do things differently, sadly, and that's the problem. And it's funny, even at the gyms I would go to for a while, I'd go to different scales. They'd both be exact same scale, by the way, same brand and everything, totally different weight. And it was off by like 5 pounds too. It wasn't even like, a pound or something. And you just kind of go, okay, well, this one tells me I'm 5 pounds heavier than that. I don't know. I always went with the one that I felt was the most stable. The other one was a little more wobbly. So and this is one of those big standing ones,
right,
where you slide the thing across.
Oh yeah.
The manual ones.
I feel like the manual ones have got to be the most accurate because they're using a weight.
You'd think
they're using weights that are measured to be a certain, heft and et cetera. So when you're balancing that with that manual scale, I just don't want to have one of those in my office. That's all. I don't want one of those. And the only other option is a digital scale. So
yeah. You go with what you can. I mean, the other thing that I know a lot of people do this. Well, they'll test their body mass index, the BMI. Yeah. And I know that most of the time that's very inaccurate. And, you got to have the right kind of machines for that. There's like an immersion kind of thing where you actually lay in water, and that will give you a more accurate thing. There's
and it includes body fat percentage when you do that too.
Yeah, muscle percentage and everything. Also percentage, just in case I was thinking perfattage. Muscle perfattage. Yeah. So there's a machine at one of our doctor's offices and all that is, it's still not the full immersion thing, but she said, our PA said that it's about as accurate as you can get short of going into the full immersion kind of thing and all that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in for a baseline here actually in a few weeks and just kind of see where I'm at, what's going on. I did it pre-COVID. I haven't done it in a long time. So we'll see what happens.
Well, that was your baseline then. This will be a follow-up.
Well, no, because I gained a lot of weight during COVID. And then I've lost some since, and I've gained a lot of muscle since last year that I lost all through COVID too. So it's like, she basically said, we're starting over. We're going to see, okay, this is where you were in 2019. This is where you are now, but here's our baseline now. And then we're going to work towards doing that. I don't know, dude.
Right,
it's funny that we've talked about health a lot the last few weeks, but I think it's good because it's a good accountability, man. I'm finding myself making Chicago deep dish pizzas which
Can't
is
wait to hear about that.
Yeah, not good for the health. But I'll tell you what. It was here's the thing though. It's fine to do stuff like that on the weekends and have a good time and all. And then during the week, it's like, okay, let's eat healthy. Let's try to keep it to the point. And like over the weekend, I was like, I don't really want to do a cold shower. I want to do a warm one today. And I did, and I didn't care, but now I'm like, but actually today it felt good to do like a hot, and then it just got colder. It was really cold by then and it felt good, so whatever.
So one thing I'm realizing during this whole health experiment of mine is that you can totally, I'm reminded, I should say, that you can totally go nuts on certain foods like your deep dish pizza, et cetera. You just don't go nuts for like several days in a row. Like have a piece of deep dish pizza on Saturday and then again on Sunday for the evening, but then don't snack a lot and don't add to it. Just make it a standalone part, or have some vegetables. Vegetables are really low on calories, and of course they're good for you.
Of course.
So I mean, you can have all these horrible things for you in moderation. You can do it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it every day.
That goes back to eat healthy and eat the freaking cookie.
Right.
So booyah. Exactly. Yeah, I love it. All right, let me tell you about this deep dish pizza, dude. So, as we discovered, we have a Giordano's here, which you knew, or we didn't know. Other people knew, but anyway. So went there, it was good. And then I was on YouTube for some reason doing something else. And I came across this guy who does a bunch of stuff, but he had a Chicago deep dish pizza recipe from scratch. And I thought, let's just watch this. I have to see. So he says, I'm from Chicago and, I know all the really famous ones out there. And he listed all of the ones that, we have heard of and some of the local ones, by the way. And he said, this is along the lines of what a quality local deep dish pizza would be.
Nice.
But using the butter crust, which is very famous that, Giordano's does as well. But it's its own thing. And I mean, apparently a lot of them do that. And then what I didn't know, and again, I'm not from Chicago, so I don't know this, but it was interesting that apparently sausage is huge for Chicago deep dish pizzas. I mean, it's like pounds of sausage.
King of Chicago, Brian. You remember
that's right. He's dashingly handsome. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, and so this guy's like, make your own sausage from ground pork. Okay, make your own dough from scratch. And this one's interesting. You know how when you get mozzarella, almost all of the mozzarella out there is part skim? I don't know if you've noticed that.
I almost never buy mozzarella, so I never noticed that, but go ahead.
But most is like you get a standard mozzarella, it's part skim, and it's actually most skim and part whatever. He said you need a full fat mozzarella in order to get the rich flavor and, the stretch of the cheese and everything.
Right. Okay.
So I thought, okay, yeah, we'll just do that. And we went and found one at Whole Foods and I ate a bite of it and I was like, oh my gosh, I've never had full fat mozzarella in my life. I mean, never. I didn't know that. I'm a cheese nerd, dude. And I have never had that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is a flavor that I had. Oh, I mean, it was an experience. If you've never had full fat mozzarella, you need to go out, just pause the show, go buy some right now, come back and eat it while you're, oh my gosh. It was awesome. Amazing.
Good to know.
Highly
That's
recommend
really good
it.
to know. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh, it's glorious.
I'm not surprised because, like when I've gotten used to skim milk in my smoothies, but when I switched to even 1% in my, if skim milk, if they're out of skim milk at the grocery store and I switched to 1% for a week, it's you can tell just that little bit of fat content, you can really your taste buds immediately catch onto it. So
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing was making the sauce from scratch too, and not using an actual store-bought. Like, I usually buy a sauce and then add to it. And this was like, tomato paste and onions and garlic and butter to start it. And then you add like crushed tomatoes to it and then the seasoning and everything else to it. I mean, it was completely from scratch. Yeah, it was. And what's interesting too is, with dough and yeast and stuff, you have to let it rise. And thankfully this was only, I'm doing air quotes here, 2.5 hours of rise time. But some of the pizza doughs are up to 24 hours of rise time.
Isn't that crazy? Why are they so different? Why?
I don't know.
I understand there are different recipes for doughs, but why would some take 24 hours and another one takes 2 hours? I don't get that.
I don't know enough about that to know, but somebody does. But it worked. The 2.5 hours, so it's like it's 90 minutes out. It rises, and then you form it into the actual dough ball, and then you stick it in the fridge for another 60 minutes, and it's interesting so it's a butter crust. So I mean, it's actually using like flour and cornmeal and salt, and it's got some sugar for the yeast and stuff. And then you actually chop up butter. And of course we use Kerrygold. So it's grass fed, but it's that really dark yellow butter. It's awesome.
Oh,
and then you put it in a food mixer blender thingy,
food processor,
food processor. There you go. And it just really makes it nice. And so the butter's marbled, like little pellets, kind of, they're pebbles. And so it's distributed nicely. And so that's what creates that glorious flavor. But putting it in the refrigerator, you need to get the butter hard again so that it's not melting. It was fascinating. And then and I remember this. So my first job was Pizza Hut. I worked there for a summer. And I remember, the pan pizzas, you would put oil, and of course you're putting like crappy oil. Oh yeah. Yeah. You'd float the stuff in the oil to fry it. And so this is similar, except in this particular situation, you're using olive oil instead of like,
canola oil,
castor oil or motor oil or whatever the heck pizza. Yeah. You're using olive oil. It was
good though.
Oh man.
Holy cow, was it good?
It's so bad for you. But yeah, the olive oil, then you coat the pan. Actually, what we did is a cast iron skillet, which was cool. So you just kind of coat it. And then you put the dough, and then you put it up like a pie crust, like up on the sides. And then you put the cheese on, and then you put the sauce. No, I'm sorry, the cheese, then the sausage. And then I put in some pepperoni and mushrooms as well. And then you put the sauce on top, and that's that traditional.
Right.
And the sauce kind of like holds it in. But what's cool about the cast iron skillet is that it's an equal heating, because it just like warms the whole thing up. And so it's completely distributed heat. And it cooks for about 40 minutes.
See, I'm always paranoid. I'm always paranoid about cast iron skillets because I don't want things to stick to them. I'm very big on no stick skillets, like with the most skillets you buy will have that coating on them where
like Teflon.
Teflon or similar coating, yeah.
Yeah,
and so cast iron does
poisonous for us, by the way.
Of course, yeah. But cast iron doesn't have that, and so I never cook with my cast iron skillet because the stuff I cook with a skillet sticks to it. But you managed to avoid that with the pizza.
It sticks, but you can scrape it off, and it's fine. And then part of the glory of a cast iron skillet is that it maintains that flavor. Like it's supposed to. I don't even know. I don't think you're supposed to clean them with soap, actually. Which I've never done.
Mine's ruined a long time ago then.
I think it's just like hot water, you scrape it, you scrub it, and then you turn it on the heat again to heat it. But I don't think I've never done it with soap. I don't think you're supposed to. See, now I'm second guessing myself.
I've just used mine wrong for years, and I don't use it very often. So
it's totally worth it if you get a chance. And a lot of it too with the cast iron is that put something in it like butter or oil and whatever you're cooking. But anyway, let's just say that, this recipe was so good. Let me just say that this is probably the best deep dish Chicago pizza I've ever had. And that's awesome. Granted, I've only had 3, like I've had Giordano's, Lou Malnati's, and someone else that I can't remember the name of in Chicago. I haven't had all of the ones that some people would recommend, but the flavor was amazing. The only thing that I would do is cut down on the salt. It was too salty for my tastes. I like more flavor and less salt. But other than that, I mean, the crust was like, it was flaky and had like a slight crunch, but it melted in your mouth at the same time too. Wow. And it was just beautiful flavor. The cheese was incredible. I mean, the sauce, I love my sauces. I've made some of the perfect spaghetti sauce ever, but getting a pizza sauce is a little different. But it was so good. I can't even.
Hey, did Miss Light help you bake that, or was that all you?
Okay. No. That was definitely a lot of her.
That was like a day long.
It was a big date. You know what we did?
For you guys.
I actually had a massage that day for the first time, and I needed a therapeutic on my neck. I was having some neck issues from something. I don't know what it was. I think I tweaked it, and then I was doing something else. And so I got my neck work done, which isn't exactly fun or relaxing, but it was, oh man, it was beautiful. Like afterwards, I'm like, I feel so much better now. And then we're like, hey, let's go. We discovered a new coffee shop. Never heard of it. Apparently they've been around since 2017. Didn't know. It was awesome. It was like this really cool kind of, I don't even know how to describe the vibe, but it was a really cool place. And they had this coffee called, well, they called it the smoky mocha. And when I think of smoky mocha, my first thought is, does it have liquid smoke in it?
Right.
And there was another place that did
a little bit.
The campfire latte or the campfire mocha. And I'm thinking it's going to have liquid smoke. And it was a s'mores. And I thought, why don't you just call it a s'mores mocha or a s'mores latte? It was like, we got a graham cracker and, marshmallow. That's s'mores, dude. That's not camp. I mean, it's at a campfire, but So I said, what makes it smoky? And they said the paprika. And I'm like, not really. So what's cool though is that it's like super, super dark chocolate, almost baking chocolate. And it's mostly that. And then you add whatever milk you want. And then they have some espresso in it. And then they have, it's a black salt, which I've never heard of.
Me neither.
And it's sprinkled on the top. So it's got that
black salt. Where does that come from? The Dead Sea or something like that?
I wonder. I don't know where they get this, but it could. I wonder if it's a truffle salt or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'd never heard of it. So I was like, well, I got to look it up now. But what's cool about it is that when you get your first taste, it's like you get that really dark, rich chocolate and salt and with a hint of espresso, and it's barely sweetened at all. And so I thought, this is kind of fun. Sarah didn't like it as much, but I loved it.
Yeah.
So, I want to try though. I want to try making some different coffee drinks, but I want to create a smoky one, and I want to they've got liquid smoke at one of the spice shops here, and I want to get just a teeny bit, and I just want to go like drip, and just try
you only want to do a drip and try it, because I'm a little skeptical about adding liquid smoke to any coffee drink, but then again, I'm not as adventurous as you. So
no, there was one shop that did it many years ago, and they called it the Smoky Bear, and it was the only time they ever did it, and it had liquid smoke, and it was like the first drink, you're kind of like, what the? And then the second drink, you're like, oh, this is so fascinating. It's just, it's an experience, That's what I love. It's fun.
Yeah.
So and then we got the ingredients we didn't have after that. After the date at the coffee shop, came home and we just had a date of, trying to figure out how to make a deep dish pizza. It was really fun. It was a fun evening. Fun day.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah. I'm jealous. I'm impressed and jealous at the same time. So.
Well, you're closer to Chicago, so you could try it sometime. I'll get you the recipe.
We're just a few hours from Chicago. That's true. We're like 5 hours away. So yeah.
Hey, one thing, quick reminder. So I know we said that the interviews were going to start this week, this current week that we're in right now. Vincent was going to come on, and if you missed it and you didn't catch this, he reached out and said, hey, can you push it to May 2nd? That's when the book actually comes out. And I was like, okay, yeah, no problem, man. So Vincent and the interviews are officially starting. I mean, the episode's done and ready to go. I'm just waiting, So this upcoming Monday, May 2nd, definitely that's going to release. And then we're going to be doing it, like I said, twice a month and that kind of thing. So stay tuned for that. We got more interviews coming up. And then I hope you enjoyed our review of Moon Knight, which we did, and we're going to be doing PIcard this next week. We haven't really talked about PIcard yet, season 2, and so we're gonna get into that one on this next Tuesday. And then yesterday, dude, I did the whole lightsaber review and stuff, and so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I've got more reviews coming up again every Thursday, but just remember, and that's the big thing, is that the Tuesday and the Thursday, so the movie and TV show reviews and the product reviews are going to be only on the YouTube channel. So again, if you've not already subscribed, please go there, youtube.com/TheRealBrian. Links are in the show notes and all that. So just make sure to go do that, because you don't want to miss those. Oh my gosh, good times, but good. Okay, so here's some excitement, and we're going to chat about this, and this is probably going to take the rest of the episode, actually. But we had an interesting question posed to us from Captain HammerPants, and I want to say thank you, Captain, for, by the way, Captain, hold on, let me show. So, the TRB thing that I'm pointing out over here, if you're on the YouTube channel, right there. Anyway, he did that whole laser etched The Real Brian show. You've got one behind you.
Yeah, right there. It's just not lit up because it looks bad on my camera.
Yeah, the camera, unfortunately.
But I have it lit up all day, every day.
Yeah, it's cool. Otherwise, yours says with Captain Influence on it. It's really neat.
Yeah, it's awesome.
He's done so many things, and he's been listening to the show. Again, thank you, Captain HammerPants. We got 2 captains here, but that's what I love. So he posed a question, and Captain Influence, why don't you tell us what Captain HammerPants asked us?
So from one captain to another, he was wondering, he thought this would be an interesting thing to discuss on the show. What modern musicians do we think could become like the Rolling Stones and have a wildly successful career spanning 6 decades? So this year marks 60 years since the Rolling Stones started recording music. And
that's performing. So 60 years?
Yeah, 60 years. And not only that, I was listening to another podcast recently, and they went to a Stones concert, and it was, I mean, he gushed about it, how awesome it was. I mean, there's just how vital they still are at that age, especially Mick Jagger.
I remember hearing about them before their first album dropped, and they were just kind of, these little punks, and then their first album came out, and I've been around for a lot longer than that. I remember when Mozart was getting famous, but hey, there was something that went around a while ago about, in our generation, a lot of our generations. So whether you're boomer, X, Y, I guess millennial,
Pre-21st century, yeah.
Yeah, we grew up with the whole people are famous and, we love our movie stars and our music stars and that kind of thing. Gen Z didn't care about that as much. Right. They know, but they might know about them. They might not. That's the thing. I find that a lot of Gen Zers and even young millennials are kind of like stuck in a bubble. They don't know much beyond their years, which is interesting. Like if you were to bring up the Rolling Stones, some people are literally going to have no idea who you're talking about. And which I find interesting because I feel like almost everybody on the planet knows who the Rolling Stones are.
When Captain HammerPants asked this question, I didn't really think that I was qualified to answer this specifically because none of the modern musicians I follow and know about are crazy popular enough to qualify. I just don't think any one of them could possibly really, I don't see how they could hit the superstardom that the Rolling Stones did and then maintain it for 60 years. I suppose someone like maybe Ed Sheeran could come close, even though I know next to nothing about Ed Sheeran. I've never even heard an Ed Sheeran song in my entire life. So speaking of bubbles, what modern music allows for us and that we didn't have available before the internet and before the last 15 years or so, the sheer quantity of different musicians you can listen to. Yeah, and the personalization. Like you make music your own now instead of what a radio station tells you to listen to or show, Right. Yeah. Right. So we all are able to put this musical bubble around us and only listen to what we're interested in. And sometimes something new and interesting will filter its way through that bubble. But for the most part, we like we know what we like and we listen to just that. So that bubble, I think, might be part of, it's going to be a big part of this discussion because I don't know. I think that phenomenon is automatically going to limit the sheer magnitude of fame that the Rolling Stones, for example, and they are the best example, have enjoyed for so many decades. Yeah, let's look at what the music industry was back then. It was, I don't think there's been more musicians today than there were back then. It's just that you had a few radio stations, a few TV stations, and you had your radio producers and, record producers and all that. I mean, and those guys would go out and they would seek out talent and they would find it and then they would come out for a way to brand them and market them. And then, the radio stations would then play them. And that's how most people discovered their music back then was through radio stations. That was the only way they could do it, really. Virtually, or it was something like an Ed Sullivan show or some kind of a variety show like that where they would get featured and then all of a sudden everybody knew about them. Fast forward to today, because of the internet and social media and all that, all of a sudden musicians are now famous anywhere and they've got their own niche bubbles and stuff like that. And so, I look at the stuff that I listen to and it's like, there are a lot of artists on my list that I consider to be fantastic. Maybe they would become popular. Maybe they would go somewhere. But the reality is that, and by the way, look at that. Well, they got, 23 million listens a month. That's a lot of listens, Right. But they still don't have that stardom and that recognition that someone like the Rolling Stones or the Beatles would have or something like that. Name recognition. Yeah. There's no need for that anymore. Radio stations don't show. I mean, they're trying to still, showcase music for us, but let's be honest. How many of us actually really truly listen to a radio station by choice these days? A lot of people are like, well, that's all I've got in my car. Okay, but is that your choice? Or is that because you have nothing else? Or, well, I listened to it at work. Well, did you choose that or did somebody else? So a lot of people I know. Less all the time. Yeah, they don't listen to radio anymore. And so how do you discover your music? Well, I discover it on Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon or whatever. And that's how I find my music too these days. And I'm finding artists that, 20, 30 years ago would be considered indie artists or coffee shop artists, but now they have a chance and they're popular and they do their own thing, but there's so many of them. And so how would you even have an opportunity for someone like anyone to become the next Rolling Stones or Beatles? It's quite possible, if not probable, that some of the artists that we all know these days, or that some of us know these days, I should say, are going to have 60-year-long, careers that are very productive. Yeah. But I'm skeptical that any of them could possibly have, and it doesn't matter who they are, could possibly have the sheer weight of fame. And like the Rolling Stones are like, and I'm not a huge Rolling Stones fan. I appreciate them and I used to listen to them once in a while, but they aren't part of I don't have any Stones music in my Spotify mixes or anything like that. Yeah. But they're like this huge avalanche from way back in the mid 20th century that's still rolling down the mountain.
Yeah.
And I just don't know that it's possible for that to happen. And it may not be possible for a long, long time. Don't say never, because there's a lot of time ahead of us, hopefully.
And I agree, because I think that, again, back in the day, it was a captive audience. You had,
yes,
like I said, you had radio stations, you had TV shows. I mean, you did not have a lot of other options out there, really.
Yeah.
And so you were a captive audience. And so you were told who would become famous. And so it became a household name, and it was repeated. And that's just what you had. And so any of us that grew up really before the internet age, that's what we were told. And now you look at today, and it's like, that kind of thing doesn't happen anymore. You're not, there's no captive audience anymore, really. And so if somebody wants to say, hey, Lil Nas X or Billie Eilish, this is your household name, and these two are going to go the next 60 years. Hey, you need to listen to them. People are like, I'm going to go over here and do this because I don't need to listen to you anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. So all forms of entertainment these days, we have so much variety to choose from. There's so much out there for anyone really to watch and enjoy if they just pick and choose what they want. The entertainment industry in general allows us to live in this little bubble of our own making. It might be a phenomenon that's had its time, and as soon as Mick Jagger and friends die, Keith Richards, I can't believe Keith Richards is still alive, honestly. As soon as they die, and it's coming soon, as soon as they pass, it'll be the end of an era, I think.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, I think you're right, because even these days, you're seeing a lot of like YouTube and TikTok stars that would never have happened, back then. It just never, those people never would have had that opportunity.
No, they would not have gotten their foot in the door with the radio stations or the music producers. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and you even look at how they did it with the Beatles and the Stones. The Beatles were the clean cut. Well, so first of all, apparently they didn't start off that way. They were doing their music and stuff. And so their producer came through and cleaned them up, where you're going to wear matching suits. You're going to get your hair cut, and you're going to bow in sync at the end of your concerts. And so that created the whole, we love the Beatles. They're respectable and they're professional and they're clean. And this is the way musicians should be, because that's the way it was. You came from Frank Sinatra and some of the, Nat King Cole and some of those guys. And then you think about, here we've got the Rolling Stones. And interestingly, before, and this is what I was saying, when I heard about them before their music came out, before their music became popular, they created an image for the Rolling Stones. They said, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to make you guys the anti-Beatles, and we're going to make you rebellious. And so they showed them like peeing outside at a gas station, like on the pumps, and saying things, inappropriate things, like, which kind of shocking back in the 60s, the early 60s, they're saying things that are just now being like, whatever, it's mainstream today. Mm-hmm. But I mean, man, back in the 60s, that kind of thing, you didn't say that. It was crude stuff back then, it's still crude, but it was, really crude back then. And so people hated them. They're like, oh my gosh, this band is horrible. And, we should never allow this.
Older people did.
Yeah. And so, but then they came out with their music, and their music was catchy, of course, and it went going. But that was their whole point, is that they created this, it was a shock value, basically, is what it was. And so I was thinking about this, that, when somebody comes in fact, a lot of people will say, well, I know a lot of musicians, or I know a lot of YouTubers, or a lot of podcasters that have these really, really wonderful, whatever things they're producing, and they're not famous.
And that's
they're never famous.
True.
And then you've got these people that are really, really famous, and they're not that good. And so
that can happen too. Yeah.
It happens a lot. In fact, that's mostly what's going on right now, is why is this person, have 20 million followers, and they're not that good. And this person has like 20 followers and they're really amazing. What's going on? Well, and so
it's also subjective. It's hard to even make that statement, but I understand.
Yeah, but what's actually happening is that it doesn't matter how good your content is, or your act is, or whatever it is. It's how your story is being told. And
how popular you are.
It's the idea of get someone's attention and get somebody talking. Does it have to be shock value? Maybe. But the whole point is that it's not about how good you are. It's about how quickly you can grab somebody's attention and get them to talk about it with someone else, and then it starts to spread. So that's what happened with the Rolling Stones. And that's why they're so popular, is because it got the story going. Of course, we don't even think about that kind of thing today. But you talk about some of the top YouTubers, there's something they did. You talk about Lil Nas X was actually another example of somebody who's like, hey, I'm a rapper, but I'm going to team up with Billy Ray Cyrus and I'm going to do country rap combo that no one had done before. And he's going to do all this weird stuff. And all of a sudden he's, so is he any better than anyone else? No, but he got people talking. And so, So I think, can we have another Rolling Stones phenomenon? Personally, I don't think we ever can again. I think the days of that are over because of the way that things are going today. Can we have Rolling Stones level fame right now? Yeah. I think we're seeing that, but with a lot of people. But will they become household names, and will they continue to be doing this stuff 60 years from now? I don't think so. I don't think people, with as fast as things are going, with as much content and information and musicians and movies and TV shows, and I mean, we're bombarded with stuff. We're going to forget about a lot of these artists in the next 5-10 years because there's going to be too many new ones coming out. Right.
That's the crux. That's the crux of it, is the volume of artists and talent out there right now is so overwhelming all over the globe. And I mean, individuals can get popular. They don't even need record companies anymore. Obviously, it's been that way for a while now. That it's so overloaded that, I mean, it's kind of like a light pollution in the sky. You can't see the stars anymore because there's so much light around, That's
a really good point.
Yeah. So
I think I
would agree.
The takeaway from this is that it's a really cool time for us as consumers and also as artists, is that you have an opportunity that you never had back then.
Right.
But also as consumers, we have more to choose from than we've ever had in the past. We don't have to wait for a DJ to tell us what to listen to. And on the other hand, we have so much information and content that it's overwhelming and it's stressful and it's anxiety inducing that I think we need to regulate ourselves and balance it to not get too overwhelmed either. Because it's easy to be like, oh my gosh, I can't keep up with all my shows.
I hear you there. Yeah, that in that regard, I can relate. So you're right. You're right. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, thank you. I see. This is, by the way, here's a perfect example of what we like. Is if you have something that you're like, hey, Brian, Captain, talk about this. Like, Duran is neither a Duran nor a Duran. Discuss. Give us a topic before you become verklempt, and seriously, let us know, because I love this kind of stuff. Send us an idea, and we'll be like, hey, let's chat about it. I love this stuff.
Awesome.
Dude, and I know that we are music experts and we're experts on, humanity and the way things are going to go and, all that. At least that's the Scuttlebutt anyway. So that's what I heard.
Well,
speaking of Scuttlebutt, I've always wondered.
An interesting word, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that word. It's one of those hilarious words like chortle.
Scuttlebutt.
And scuttlebutt. I just love saying scuttlebutt. It's an old Navy, not even a Navy, it's a sailing term. What's the scuttlebutt? And I wanted to know what the origin is, Captain. What is it?
So, it sounds nautical, at least. I mean, scuttle. You scuttle a ship. You sink a ship. But I never put two and two together with the maritime origins of the word scuttlebutt. But
I don't know about the maritime origin. I just know that they said it a lot in the maritime water, the maritime universe.
And I didn't know that. So I looked into it, and here's what I found. So from worddetective.com, this was the best explanation I got. Today we use the term scuttlebutt to mean rumors, gossip, or insider news, especially of the sort that circulates within an organization, whether a corporate office or a military unit. It's the sort of talk that stereotypically takes place when office workers encounter each other at the water cooler or coffee machine and trade news and complaints about the latest depredations of management. It's appropriate that the term scuttlebutt, I know you all think of The Office, right? It's appropriate that the term,
happening?
Or rather, not The Office. We think of Office Space
and The Office.
Yeah, it's appropriate that the term scuttlebutt is used for this social ritual because the scuttlebutt aboard a sailing ship in the 18th century was essentially the ship's water cooler.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
so it was a thing.
It
was a scuttlebutt, a cask of drinking
gosh.
water. A cask of drinking water kept on the deck for use by the crew was called a scuttlebutt. As in modern offices, the ship's scuttlebutt was where you heard the news of the day and traded the latest gossip.
So there's the maritime thing.
Exactly.
Oh, cool. See, I knew it was, but I didn't know why. Okay, cool.
Right. So, and I didn't know this either. The butt, as in quote unquote, the butt in scuttlebutt is simply a very old English word meaning cask or barrel.
Okay.
So the scuttlebutt was originally scuttled butt, and it's hyphenated, scuttled butt, from the verb to scuttle, meaning to cut or bore a hole in something.
Oh.
Specifically to cut a hole in the hull of a ship in order to sink it,
as
I mentioned. Originally, any opening or hatch on a ship was called a scuttle. possibly drawn from the French escutille, which means hatchway. In the case of the Scuttlebutt water cask, the scuttle was a covered hole in the top of the barrel that opened to allow sailors to scoop out water in a tin pot.
Mm-hmm.
So a scuttlebutt was simply a butt with a scuttle in the lid.
Of course.
There you go.
Nice.
So the term scuttlebutt first appeared in print in the literal water cooler sense around 1801.
Okay.
Although the term was almost certainly in use among sailors long before then.
Yeah.
Its first appearance in print in the gossip sense was just about 100 years later, so early 1900s. Originally in the form of, quote, scuttlebutt gossip or, quote, scuttlebutt yarns, unquote. Okay. The use of the term definitely increased during World Wars I and II, and civilian use became widespread in the 1950s. And this makes perfect sense because during World War I and II, it was by far the largest mobilization of naval personnel in human history on all over the world. And so, well, mostly the Northern Hemisphere. But so, and when all those sailors went home, to be civilians again, especially after World War II, that term probably propagated massively after that because they were all used to using it every day to talk about gossip. So
that's cool.
So I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for finding that. I appreciate that. And that's neat to know what the scuttlebutt word actually meant and what it was derived from. But yeah, what's the scuttlebutt? I love it.
I like this one because I usually learn something when I do these, but I had no idea. So yeah.
To me, it's just a funny word to say too. Like what's the gossip or what's the rumor? What's the scuttlebutt? I just love the word.
Yeah.
I just love scuttling my butt. All right. I wanted to say really quickly that Upload Season 2, I finished it. Only 7 episodes. I was very disappointed that it was only 7 episodes. It needed to be at least 10. The season 1, I think, was 10 as well. It needed to be at least 10 episodes. I got to be honest. I'm okay with seasons not being 23 episodes. I feel like, back in the day when these TV shows would do 23 episode seasons, there was way too many filler episodes. Just not my thing, right? So when seasons dropped down to get into more of the 16 episode range, I was fine with that. 6 and 7, come on, give us more. I'm sorry, it's not enough. So I'm a little frustrated by that.
10 seems to be a median range that is super common now.
Yeah, I like the 10 to 16 though. I like that. It's to me it feels right. When you do less than that, it's like you're kind of leading us on. Make us wait, for the next season to come out 2 years later.
Yeah.
It frustrates me. And so in this particular situation, I didn't like that. I didn't think Upload Season 2 as a whole was as good as Season 1. However, I will say this, that, I mentioned last week that I was watching and it wasn't as good, but it got better as the season progressed. And as it ended, it was kind of like, wow. There was kind of a, wow, they went there kind of ending to the episode, kind of, oh my gosh, now what? And they left us on a massive cliffhanger. So it better come back for a season 3 or else I'm going to hunt down Robbie ML because I know him. I know you, Robbie. Coming after you. But anyway, it's fun. It's worth watching. So there you go. Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate this. All right. So as I said, Monday, we've got Vincent Pugliese coming in for the interviews, and Tuesday, going to be talking about PIcard season 2 so far. I've got a lot of thoughts on it. Oh my gosh, a lot. So come join us for that if you're a Star Trek PIcard watcher. A watcher. And then some more product reviews, of course, Stuff Nerds. We're going to have a good time. And then, of course, we'll be back on Friday. But, Captain, I got to tell you, this was fun. I like having questions posed to us because we get to, it gets us thinking. It's not just about, well, here's what I can come up with. It's about, I didn't think about that. So thank you, Captain HammerPants.
Keep it coming, guys. Yeah,
I really like that. And then the other thing that always gets my head scratching is kind of the
thoughts with Captain Influence.
When I listen to the birds outside my window, I wonder if they're exchanging scuttlebutt in the trees. Would that be called scuttle branch? I know, scuttle bark would be for dogs.
Well, you know what the scuttlebutt means. I mean the music.
Wait,
thanks for joining us.
I knew what scuttlebutt meant, but the music still eludes me, dude.
Maybe we need an origin of what the music means, because I don't even know what the music means. I still don't. One of these days, we'll figure it out. But anyway, thank you for joining us. Links, everything, show notes, description below. Have a wonderful week, and The Real Brian Show is signing off.
The Real Brian Show is a production of 514 Media at 514mediaempire.com.